This is Reuters.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump plans to turn himself in on Thursday to Atlanta authorities over his indictment in Georgia, according to a social media post Monday. On his Truth Social platform, Trump said, quote, "I'll be going to Atlanta, Georgia on Thursday to be arrested." The indictment alleges his connection with efforts to overturn his presidential election loss in the state of Georgia in 2020. In a 98-page indictment unveiled last week, Trump and 18 other defendants were charged with a total of 41 criminal counts in the case. In his Truth Social post Monday, the former president described it as a politically motivated act to derail his re-election campaign. CNN reported that the surrender date was set during negotiations on Monday between Trump's lawyers and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office over Trump's consent bond and release conditions. A court filing of the agreement shows the former president faces a $200,000 bond and orders not to send or repost threatening social media messages as he awaits trial in Georgia. The local sheriff's office said earlier on Monday there will be a, quote, hard lockdown of the area surrounding the Fulton County Jail, commonly known as Rice Street, when Trump surrenders. The Georgia case is Trump's fourth indictment. He has pled not guilty in all of those cases. While he's the current frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, he could spend much of next year in court, even as he campaigns for the White House. Prosecutors in the Georgia case have proposed that the trial start on March the 4th, while Trump's lawyers have asked for a 2026 trial.
Floodwaters inundated streets across Southern California on Monday after Storm Hilary unleashed record-breaking downpours overnight, forcing Juan Pfeiffer and his mother to flee their Victorville home.
It sucks to see it go, but lives can't be replaced, material objects can. And it's better to just replace the house, fix whatever gets damaged, than risking somebody drowning over something that's avoidable.
The heavy rainfall caused furious flash floods east and west of Los Angeles.
My whole bottom floor was filled up with water to waist level.
In Cathedral City, California, Ronald Mendiola and his family ended up being rescued by someone who spotted them on the roof.
So eventually we went to the patio, second-story patio, balcony, and from there on we decided to go on top of the roof with our best bet for shelter. 5 of us with a 2.5-year-old baby. And we did make it to safety by a Good Samaritan coming and actually passing by and picking us up, all 5 of us, from the roof.
As of Monday, no deaths were reported in the U.S. due to Hilary, which had reached hurricane strength off Mexico, and fears of widespread damage were dissipating. Richard Thompson is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
This is historic. This is the first landfalling tropical storm in Southern California since September 25th, 1939. It's just a combination of the atmospheric wind flow and also just the ocean temperatures, in the Eastern Pacific that allowed it to come up to the north there and eventually come on shore across San Diego and give us what was a very, very significant rainfall for mid-August. Very significant.
The side of this road near Los Angeles collapsed from the effect of the rain and rushing water, as landslides and mudslides remained a concern. California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for much of Southern California, while President Joe Biden ordered federal agencies to move personnel and supplies into the region.
U.S. President Joe Biden toured the blackened city of Lahaina on Hawaii's Maui Island on Monday, 2 weeks after wildfires killed more than 114 people there. Biden told members of the community that the rest of America stood by them and promised federal aid, as he stood by a historic 150-year-old banyan tree that survived the blaze.
The tree survived for a reason. I believe it's a very powerful symbol of what we can and will do to get through this crisis. And for as long as it takes, we're going to be with you. The whole country will be with you.
While the firestorm that raged on the island has abated, officials believe that around 850 people are still missing. Biden, who is seeking re-election in 2024, has been criticized by some Republicans for how he initially responded to the Maui fires. He went several days without speaking about the tragedy while vacationing at his Delaware beach house. The White House says Biden has been leading a, quote, whole-of-government effort to help Hawaii recover. A White House spokesperson said Biden had approved a Hawaii disaster declaration within an hour of receiving it, though he himself didn't want to travel to Maui until he was sure his visit wouldn't interfere with emergency response efforts. At a separate event, Biden recounted his personal tragedy, a car crash in 1972 that led to the death of his first wife and young daughter.
I have a little bit of a sense what it's like driving from Washington to Wilmington, 150 miles, wondering what in God's name is it going to be like when I get to the hospital. Only thing worse than losing someone is not sure whether you've lost someone. Not sure whether my heart goes out to you, Jill and I, it aches for you, those of you who are trying to determine whether or not the person who is missing and unaccounted for reasons that are devastating.
After heartfelt speeches from local leaders, there was traditional music to round out the president's visit to Hawaii. The state's governor thanked Biden for his help and praised a response with what he called unprecedented speed. But for those with their feet in the ashen ruins, there's hope a presidential visit is just the beginning.
I'm happy for the Biden visit, but what happens after this and what happens next? We're all watching. The world is watching.
Japan says it will start releasing more than 1 million tons of treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear plants beginning this Thursday. It puts a plan into motion approved by the government 2 years ago, but which has drawn strong criticism from China and from the local fishing industry. Tokyo says it's a crucial step in decommissioning the disabled plants run by the Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida.
TEPCO is asked to swiftly prepare to start the water discharge in accordance with the plan approved by the Nuclear Regulation Authority. As for the specific release date, it is expected to be August 24th, weather and sea conditions permitting.
The treated water was used to cool the plant's few rods after they were hit by a huge tsunami in 2011. Japan has maintained that the water release is safe. That claim was backed by the UN nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, which greenlighted the plan in July. The IAEA said the plan met international standards and the impact it would have on people and the environment was negligible. However, local fishing groups and seafood retailers have opposed the release, saying it could cause reputational damage. Takashi Nakajima runs a supermarket in the Fukushima area. After watching customers slowly begin to eat local seafood again, he fears it will scare them away.
They say it'll be safe when it's diluted, but they haven't conducted any scientific research regarding what would happen as a result of discharging this much of the water over 30 years. I think it's unscientific at best to release it here, and it's sure to hurt sales of fish. That's why I'm strongly against it. I don't want them to do it.
Kishida claimed on Monday that the government had achieved a degree of understanding from the fishing industry. While Kishida said he believed what he called an accurate understanding of the release was spreading around the globe, China has remained a stalwart critic of the plan. In July, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin called Japan selfish and arrogant, adding it had not fully consulted the international community about the release. China bans seafood imports from 10 prefectures in Japan, including Fukushima and the capital, Tokyo.
The latest move comes after the British regulator reopened its investigation into the deal in July. It did so after Microsoft said commitments accepted by the EU and a new agreement with Sony represented a material change. But on Tuesday, the CMA said it did not accept Microsoft's reasoning. That has forced the US giant to come back with a new deal to address regulator concerns over competition in the cloud streaming market. Under the new terms, Microsoft will not be able to release Activision Blizzard games exclusively on its own cloud streaming service. It also can't exclusively control the licensing terms of Activision Blizzard games for rival services. Ubisoft is a French video game publisher. Its shares jumped 6.5% on the update, making them the top gainer on the Pan-European Stock 600.
The group of emerging economies known as BRICS makes up more than 40% of the world's population and a quarter of the global economy. And more countries want to join the club, which aims to challenge a world order seen to be dominated by the US and its Western allies. But what exactly is BRICS? Who wants in? And why? Underscoring the growth potential of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, a chief economist at Goldman Sachs came up with the BRIC acronym in 2001. The group was founded as an informal club in 2009. Its creation initiated by Russia. South Africa joined the following year. It's the smallest member in terms of economic clout and population. BRICS is not a formal multilateral organization like the UN or World Bank. Its leaders usually get together annually, with each nation rotating through a one-year chairmanship of the group. The bloc operates by consensus. Apart from geopolitics, the group's focus includes economic cooperation and increasing multilateral trade and development. And that's attracting others. This year's chair, South Africa, says over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining. Iran has said it hopes the club will pin down the new membership process as soon as possible. Oil heavyweight Saudi Arabia has the backing of Russia and Brazil. And Argentina says it has China's support. One of Africa's fastest growing economies, Ethiopia, says it's asked to join. Bolivia appears interested too. In July, the country turned to the Chinese yuan, saying it wanted to curb dependence on the US dollar for foreign trade. That move aligns with BRICS' stated aim. The same month, Algeria said it applied for membership and to become a shareholder in the so-called BRICS Bank, or New Development Bank. Still, current members are divided over expansion. China wants the group to get bigger as it tussles with the US over trade and geopolitics. South Africa and Russia, which hopes to thaw its diplomatic isolation over the Ukraine war, are also keen to see the group grow. But Brazil is more skeptical, and India is undecided.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski said on Monday the promised delivery of F-16 fighter jets made him confident Ukraine will defeat Russia. Thousands of people gathered outside Parliament in Copenhagen to hear him speak.
Dear friends, today we are confident that Russia will lose this war.
Denmark and the Netherlands announced on Sunday they would supply the first US-made F-16s to Ukraine, after Washington gave its approval. The first 6 jets are due to be delivered around New Year.
The main thing is what we prove with our victory, with our cooperation, what you prove supporting Ukraine. Together, we prove that life is a value, that people matter, freedom matters, Europe matters.
Russia warned supplying the jets to Ukraine would only escalate the war, which has dragged on for a year and a half. Ukraine's Air Force said the jet was vital to the success of its counter-offensive, which has so far been slow, because it would prevent Russian fighter jets attacking advancing forces. Danish Defence Minister Jakob Ellemann-Jensen said Ukraine may only use the donated F-16s within its own territory. Denmark will deliver 19 jets in total. The Netherlands has 42 F-16s available, but has yet to decide whether to donate all of them. Zelensky has called the decision a breakthrough. Ukrainian pilots have begun training, Defence Minister Alexei Reznikov said on Saturday, but it will take at least 6 months to train engineers and mechanics.
Работаем. Температура плюс 50. Все как мы любим. ЧВК «Вагнер» проводит РПД. Делает Россию еще более великой на всех континентах. А Африку еще более свободной. Справедливость и счастье для африканских народов. Кошмарим ИГИЛ, Аль-Каиду и других бандосов. Берем на работу настоящих богатырей и продолжаем выполнение задач, которые были поставлены и которые мы давали обещание, что справимся.
Back in Senegal on Monday evening, migrants who were stranded for weeks in the ocean. They were rescued off the coast of Cape Verde last week. Their boat, which left Senegal on July 10th, had run out of fuel and drifted in the Atlantic Ocean. They were found by a Spanish fishing vessel on August 16th. There had been 101 passengers on board. Only 38 survived. Senegal's Foreign Affairs Minister Annette Seck said just 7 bodies have been recovered so far. On Monday evening, some of the survivors, mainly from the fishing village of Fass-Boy, were taken off a plane on stretchers, too weak to stand. One, Seck said, was not yet in a condition to travel. Thousands of migrants brave the hundreds of miles of ocean separating Africa from Europe each year. Summer is the busiest period for such crossings, in search of better livelihoods that too often end in tragedy.
Could artificial intelligence revolutionize combat sports?
I think it's going to be absolutely transformative for the clubs.
One startup wants to throw the first punch in the battle for the future of boxing with an advanced computer vision AI system it called Deep Strike. The startup Jabber says the Deep Strike system is able to measure 50 different parameters in real time. And according to CEO Alan Swystrup, this is what it can do with a video feed of a boxing match.
What it's going to give you is an automated count of strikes thrown, what's landed, the impact quality of the shots. But it's also going to do a lot of other cool things like generate automated highlights for you.
Deep Strike was recently tested in a London boxing club for the first time with several amateurs. It appeared to be able to not only display a full suite of stats, but also showed highlight reels between rounds and changed camera angles to follow the action.
What's really, really cool is you can give it like, say, 2-3 cameras, static cameras and tripods. It can convert that into something that looks like a professional TV production, all automated.
Swystrup claims Deep Strike will allow all boxing clubs to give their fighters the kind of performance analyses that are limited to a small group of people right now. And the ability to professionally stream live matches means smaller clubs could expand their revenue streams. Manja Klempner, the founder of the boxing house, called the boxing industry fairly staid and is excited for the change in landscape.
I think it's very cool. I think it's great. It's going to give CompuBox, which is the current way we collect stats of professional boxing matches, a run for its money. I think it's high time we do that sort of thing.
Performance aside, could the AI play referee? Jabbers say they are asked repeatedly whether this AI could replace a referee, something they say is highly political, but claim that in a non-live test, it could do the job.
It's not going to jump into the ring with you and be like, oh, break or whatever. But as a judge, in theory, yes, you could use it as a judge.
Swystrup says when tested with video of recorded matches, Deep Strike did a pretty good job at determining the winner of a fight.
For 10 out of the 12 fights, it picked the same winner as the judges. And then for 2 of the fights, it picked a different one. But that was also fights that the crowd booed the judges. So maybe it was onto something.
And for an industry dogged with suspicions of corruption, the technology may be a way to keep the record clean and avoid bias. Deep Strike isn't available to the public yet, but Jabbers say they're aiming to roll out a beta version that will be later this year.
Russia's first moon mission in 47 years failed, after its Lunar 25 spacecraft spun out of control and smashed into the moon. Let's take a look at how this unsuccessful mission could affect Russia's space program going forward. Lunar 25's launch into space had raised hope in Moscow that Russia was returning to the big power moon race. But the crash underscores the decline of Russia's space power since the glory days of Cold War competition. Moscow's Sputnik 1 was the world's first to launch a satellite to orbit the Earth back in 1957. And Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man to travel into space in 1961. Despite those successes, Russia had not attempted a moon mission since Lunar 24 in 1976. Space expert Ilya Ovchinnikov says this failed mission is unlikely to be perceived as a huge setback.
So actually setting back the Russian lunar program, this is probably unlikely to happen, unless of course they start waving a saber and reprimand all those who worked on this mission, breaking their future in the engineering field. I think that they need to be supported now, these specialists, because they have gained tremendous experience and will continue to work already with this experience behind them.
That said, some Russian scientists, though, have complained that the space program has been weakened by poor managers who are keen for unrealistic vanity space projects, corruption, and a decline in the rigor of Russia's post-Soviet scientific education system. The Lunar 25 mission also underscores the pressure on Russia's $2 trillion economy. It has so far withstood what the West casts as the most stringent sanctions ever imposed. The West says the sanctions have weakened Russia's economy, particularly the high-technology parts which often rely on imports. President Vladimir Putin says Russia's economy is showing remarkable strength. But space expert Vitaly Egorov, who is the author of Selenikot Telegram, says questions arise now if Russia will be able to continue its space program.
The question is, will the Kremlin and the Ministry of Finance be ready to fund projects like this? Because the development will take a long time. It will take years and billions of rubles, while the outcome is questionable. Will they be ready to spend time and money for another embarrassment?
Many world powers are trying to reach the moon to search for water ice on the lunar South Pole. But all eyes are on India now, which Russia has been racing against. The Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft is scheduled to land there this week, just days after the Russian lander's failure. China and the United States are two other countries that have advanced lunar ambitions.
Сегодня это носит еще и практическую ценность, потому что началась, безусловно, гонка за освоение природных ресурсов Луны. И в будущем Луна станет площадкой для освоения дальнего космоса, идеальной площадкой. Но нужно сказать, что весь эксперимент проводился в зоне устойчивой радиосвязи. Мы знали все о положении корабля. Тем не менее, в 14 часов 57 минут связь с аппаратом прекратилась. Попытки восстановить связь оказались неудачными. Предварительные расчеты баллистические показали, что за счет нештатной работы корректирующей двигательной установки аппарат перешел на незамкнутую лунную орбиту и, по сути дела, врезался в поверхность Луны.
Japan will begin pumping Fukushima water into the ocean. The plan will see more than 1 million tons of treated radioactive water released and take decades to complete. It's now won approval from the UN's nuclear watchdog, despite fierce resistance from some neighbouring countries and local residents. So, how will it work? After Fukushima was hit by a powerful earthquake and tsunami in 2011, water was used to cool the destroyed reactor's fuel rods at the Daiichi nuclear power plant. This contaminated radioactive water has been stored in huge tanks, enough to fill 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Officials say the tanks are near capacity and have to be removed for reconstruction. Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, has been distilling the water to remove isotopes, leaving only tritium, a radioactive isotope of hydrogen that's hard to separate from water. TEPCO will dilute the water until tritium